Welcome, space travelers. Today, we have a theory that could possibly change how we look at the Haunted Mansion forever, unless it has already been said, which is highly likely, and I've just not seen that yet. So, if you're watching this, I'm assuming that you know about George Hightower and Constance Hatchaway. If you haven't, there are about probably millions of YouTube videos about them. Just click off this and then go and watch one of those. But I will fill you in a bit if you forgot anything about that. So, George Hightower was a very wealthy man that he's throughout pretty much all the Disney parks. But how this is connected to the Haunted Mansion is that he is the technical owner of the house. And he married Constance Hatchaway, which is the bride in the attic, if you didn't already know that. And my theory is that George Hightower is, in fact, the Hatbox Ghost. It really isn't that far-fetched. At least I don't think it is. Since George Hightower was a very, very wealthy man, he went on many vacations to many extravagant places. And after he came back from these places, he brought souvenirs with him. What if some of those souvenirs were in fact hat boxes? And that's why he has an entire hatbox room. And if what in the attic, which is where Constance is, what if almost everything in that attic are the souvenirs that he brought back from all of his different trips? I think that makes a lot of sense. And maybe he was most attached to his hat boxes, and, well, as you saw in the pictures before, the resemblance between the Hatbox Ghost and George Hightower is pretty much uncanny. They both have a very similar hat. They both have similar hair, besides the fact that George has a mustache and the Hatbox Ghost doesn't. But let's just assume that he shaved before, he kind of got beheaded. I think that would be a decent assumption. And what if, after he got beheaded, since he collected the most hat boxes, that was the thing that he figured he could basically stay the most with? If that didn't make sense, honestly, I don't know what I meant, besides the fact that he has a lot of similarities, and if he was the owner of the house, then he must have collected these hat boxes from somewhere. And they can't just appear out of nowhere, and since he did travel, that is the only reasonable explanation for it. And, since he got beheaded, the Hatbox Ghost can technically behead himself, because, his head goes into the hatbox. And right before that, you see Constance holding the hatchet that she killed George with. And where is she? She's in the attic, right before you see the Hatbox Ghost, or should I say, George Hightower. This may seem a little bit far-fetched, but in the mansion in Florida, after the basically infinite hallway, if you look around, you can find pictures, probably a decent amount of them, if just by looking around, probably about 7 or 8 of them are of the Hatbox Ghost. Which, if George Hightower did own this place, then he technically would have had pictures of himself in there. And even after death, he would still want to keep himself somewhat alive in his house by putting pictures up of him, even in his current state, which would be the Hatbox Ghost. If all of this adds up, the fact that he went on vacation to get souvenirs, which therefore would be hatboxes, him being Constance's last husband, him owning the Haunted Mansion, him having pictures in the ride of himself, him even being in the stretching room, which, since he is in a gravestone in the stretching room, he technically is in the mansion in another way. And it shows that he was beheaded by Constance, which was already, shown in the actual ride. But if this all adds up, he is the Hatbox Ghost. There's no doubt. It makes complete sense, at least to me. I don't know what else to say. It just makes sense. It all connects perfectly.